All right, folks, let me call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, January 24th, 2023. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask Council Member Lee Dumas, if he would, to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation for council. You are welcome to join us by standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we invoke your presence here tonight. Thank you for being here with us at this meeting. Thank you for this great city that you've given us. Thank you for the responsibility that you put on this council tonight. Help us to be mindful of all those in the city that work here, that live here, that visit here, that they'd have a great experience and that they would know that your hand is on us and is always with us. Go with us tonight. Help us to do what's pleasing in your sight. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. With that, we'll move to the public forum this evening. We have one person to speak in public forum. I'd like to recognize Gwendolyn Martin. And Ms. Martin, if you would like to make your way to the podium, the floor is yours. If you would, just as a matter of the record, state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I am here on behalf of Mark Escaday and Clay Escaday of Toyota of Greer, Hyundai of Greer, Genesis of Greer. I am here on their behalf, as both of them are unable to be here tonight and they send their apologies. Other commitments have caused them to have to be out of town. I'm here to voice again the objections that my clients have. Let me say I'm an attorney at law with Bradford, Neal Martin and Associates. The objections that they have over the item under your old business for tonight, the second and final reading of the 3 parcels that are to be annexed and zoned by Streams Development. Mr. Escaday, Mark, and Clay, one or the other, has spoken with a number of you over the past 2 months about our concerns over safety. We do understand that tonight's vote is for annexation. It is for zoning. We understand the ordinances and statutes behind those 2 actions. But we also want to publicly state and continue to bring to your attention the safety concerns we have. We understand there's a traffic impact study. By its very wording, it states, no attempt was made to account for the unusual arrangement at the intersection of the connection of Durham Drive, which connects immediately at the intersection of North Dobson Road at US 29, East Wade Hampton Boulevard. Also not mentioned in this study is the fact that Hyundai of Greer was built over the past year and opened, had their grand opening in October of 2022, and then a couple of months later in December, Genesis of Greer. Was this accounted for in this traffic study? If so, it's not mentioned here. At a previous public planning commission hearing that was held to rectify the fact that there was no public notice posting on Durham Road that runs behind these dealerships, both Clay Escaday and Mark Escaday did appear and raise these concerns. And again, we just want to point out, we think this is an unusual situation. We realize there are many entrances onto Wade Hampton Boulevard that are not signalized, but this situation with these large dealerships and again, having just recently opened, was this taken into account? So we want to bring that to your attention and again, just publicly state our opposition and our concerns based on the safety factors. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, with that, we'll move to the minutes of our council meeting held January the 10th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion that those minutes be approved this evening.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk in regards to the minutes recorded January 10th, 2023?
No, sir.
Hearing none. Mr. Schenkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Mrs. Albert. Mayor Danner.
Yes. With that then, you've got departmental reports that are contained in your packet this evening. We welcome Ms. Susan Howell from the Financial Department to give us an update on our financial report.
Good evening. Good to see you, Mayor and Council. Let me start out with our financial summary for December 31st, 2022. Starting out with the general fund, we have year-to-date revenue of $8,850,000, year-to-date expenditures of $18,641,000, which is 1% under budget, and the cash balance in the general fund is $9,014,000. If you refer to your dashboards where we compare actual to benchmark, we also have a positive variance of $78,000. Moving on to the hospitality fund, the year-to-date revenue is $1,692,000, which is 6% over budget. And then the expenditures, total expenditures year-to-date are $659,000 with $2,691,000 in the cash balance. Finally, the stormwater fund, the year-to-date revenue is $207,000. The year-to-date expenditures are $101,000, and the cash balance in the stormwater fund is $2,254,000. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, questions, comments? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Howell. And as always, for more information regarding any of the departmental reports, you can contact the department head and/or Mr. Merriman. With that, we will move to the administrator's report. Mr. Merriman, the floor is yours, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much and good evening. Just a few things that I want to point out tonight. First of all, there's a couple opportunities for the citizens of this city to get involved in what's going on with their local government. The first, of course, is the Citizens Police Academy. It begins February 2nd. This is an opportunity to learn more about our police department and how we operate as a department. Beginning February 2nd for a 12-week in-depth journey. You can get on to the cityofgreer.org website and apply there. Same thing with our Civics Academy. It not only touches on police through the Civics Academy, but all other departments on how we operate, and would help, hopefully, citizens become more engaged in their local government. Registration's open for our spring 2023 Civics Academy class. It's free, obviously, and it's can be registered online at cityofgreer.org. Please do so before the February 6th. Another reminder on two outreach opportunities that the city is trying to get some citizen engagement on. First is the Maple Creek Watershed pilot watershed study. We're looking for feedback from residents in the Maple Creek area. They can go online and fill out a survey there about the watershed. And the other thing is we need to learn a little bit more about how we communicate with the public. And there is a communication survey available online. We're hoping to we're going to have this online through the 31st of this month, but we welcome your input as we strive to best serve the needs of our community. And let's see, I do want to say this also, that I want to congratulate the Samaritan Award recipients at our Martin Luther King Jr. celebration luncheon that was held last Monday here at City Hall. Mr. Booker awarded 3 Samaritan Awards to citizens who have positively impacted the community. So we want to congratulate Ms. Sylvia Jones, Mr. Jameel Allen Sr., and Pastor Bobby Cohen as this year's award recipients, and we do thank them for all that they do for our community. And last, Mayor and Council, I do want to remind you of the UDO workshop, which is scheduled for February 2nd here in the chambers, and our reminder that our council retreat is scheduled for the 23rd and the 24th. So February 2nd and then February 23rd and 24th. But more information will be coming to you about that. Mr. Mayor, unless there's any other questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Questions from council? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Next item of business this evening is appointments to boards and commissions. We have one from the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee. Reno Deaton has resigned effective 1/18/2023, and his term expired in 12/31/2025. Action will be necessary to fill this position. Kenna McLarty, our finance manager, joins us for the conversation. Floor is yours.
All right, good evening, council and mayor. Tonight, I'm requesting approval to replace ATAX board member Reno Deaton with Candace Good. Reno recommended Candace to replace his vacant seat. Candace is the manager at County Bank here in Greer, and she also serves on the committee at the chamber with their programs and events. I have attached her graphical sketch for your reading, but I'm happy to answer any questions should there be any.
Thank you, ma'am. For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second. The floor is open for questions or discussion. Comes with a recommendation from staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Thank you.
ma'am. Council, items of old business before us this evening, the first of which is the second and final reading of ordinance number 60-2022. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Route 2 LLC located on North Dobson Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of RM2 for said property. Ms. Cotty joins us for these items of old business relative to planning and zoning. Ms. Cotty, any new or additional information in regards to the second and final reading of ordinance number 60-2022?
Yes, Commission initially held a public hearing October 17th and recommended approval. We did hold another additional public hearing at its December 13th meeting, and they again recommended approval. There was public comment and lengthy discussion about transportation and roadway improvements and safety, as the petitioner mentioned tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second. And a second. Floor is open for discussion.
Yeah, can you really explain what the plans are for the road improvement?
So the traffic study that was performed, the recommended improvement for the developer is a southbound right turn lane from North Dobson on to West Wade Hampton. So you can kind of see here, all of the access is planned to be onto Dobson Road. So that is the recommended improvement. There have been conversations with SCDOT and the developer and some of the property owners about potentially trying to realign North Dobson Road to align with Bible Brook, to create an intersection that could be signalized. However, that's not required of the developer based on the traffic study. That conversation will be ongoing if the annexation occurs and this project does move forward to site development plan. However, based on the traffic study, again, the required improvement would be a southbound right turn lane from Dobson onto Wade Hampton.
That would be required, is that what you said? Yeah. What with Dobson? Now, Dobson,
Durham,
Just-
do you mean Durham?
Durham,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes.
Durham. I know that there's still residences that live down there. There's probably 5 or 6 homes down that way.
Yes.
And that definitely is a one-way passage street.
It's a very narrow road that's existing. The only access that's proposed at the moment is emergency access. That would be a Knox box with a gate. Again, if that were to change, once the site development plan were to come to fruition, we would require an updated traffic study, but there aren't any changes at this point. There, again, have been conversations about if it would be possible to realign Durham Road to tee into North Dobson, further north from the Wade Hampton intersection and get those residents and that business access away from that main intersection. But that is just a discussion at this point. Again, it's not required, and it wouldn't, it would be worked out during site development. But that road absolutely would not be closed. It just may potentially be realigned.
That's a very strange intersection there.
It is. It is.
Go ahead.
Couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the point, what's been said a couple of times tonight, you had to have a second hearing because Durham Road wasn't posted properly.
Yes.
Where was the signs, where was it posted the first time?
There were 2 signs on North Dobson Road.
And where on North Dobson?
Along where 60 comes in.
Uh-huh.
And then further up, closer to 62, like near the top where 62 and 60 meet.
Okay. And of course, North Dobson is not just, it just does not empty out on Wade Hampton. It goes on, correct? If you turn off Wade Hampton on North Dobson, it continues.
To Arlington. Mhm, yes, sir.
Okay. What was the objection? I guess it was just from the owners of the dealerships that's represented here tonight. What is their objection?
They're concerned about the safety of the intersection where.
Which intersection?
No, North Dobson, Wade Hampton, and where Durham Road kind of intersect. It's a very quirky intersection where the 2 roads come in very close to each other on Wade Hampton.
Was there not
And they
discussion
have
about
truck traffic.
Yes. Where do those trucks unload?
They turn right from Wade Hampton onto Durham, and then they come to the back of the site of the dealership.
Okay, do they pull off of Durham to unload, or do they stay on Durham and unload?
They pull off into the site,
Okay.
the dealership.
Comments? Other questions?
Who follows up to see that the requirements are made once this is passed from the city? Who oversees, like from the highway, SCDOT or whoever, to see that the road proposals are handled and that safety issues are cleared? Because I used to deliver Meals on
Sure.
Wheels down that road, and it's, your car just kind of fits on Dobson. And hard, you couldn't, if you moved over, you'd probably be way off the road. There's no way to move, really. So I know it's a very narrow road going down through there. And like you said, it is quirky. When you coming down Dobson, if you know, and they just kind of run into each other. So
that's just, it will be considered as existing conditions. And so none of the traffic from the neighborhood, the new apartment complex, would access Durham. So that's why they're primarily concerned with Dobson. But staff would oversee that requirements from the traffic impact analysis were incorporated into the site development plan. They would also coordinate with DOT. Again, we are exploring other intersection improvements that we hope we can work with the developer and other property owners to get better improvements, bigger improvements. But regardless, we will certainly be in contact with SCDOT, and our engineering staff and planning staff do monitor those to make sure they're incorporated into the site plan.
Are we annexing that section of Dobson?
Yes, Dobson and Durham, both.
Okay, now I thought that our development regulations required from anywhere the developing property begins and ends for a city street, if the street didn't comply with our requirements that had to be upgraded. Is that correct?
We typically do, and that's something I can discuss with the city engineer. It was his opinion that since the project wasn't accessing that road, that it may not necessarily have to be widened, but we can certainly revisit that.
Not necessarily, well, did it meet our standards?
I
think
can
in this
almost
particular-
guarantee it doesn't.
Durham, I can promise you, probably does not. And I think the decision was, from an engineering perspective, was considered on Durham Road because there was, this property or this project was not accessing Durham at all, that those requirements would be onerous on the property
My
owner.
question is about Dobson.
Dobson,
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry, yes,
Okay,
they will
yeah.
absolutely be required
Yes,
to
sir,
widen
sorry.
Dobson along their project frontage and install exterior sidewalks. Yes, sir.
And we'll have sidewalks on all sides of the development, interior and exterior, where there is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, this is going to be a district.
Exits, entrances will that development have?
So I am not certain. I believe there were 2 on North Dobson that were considered in the traffic study, but again, until it gets to site development plan, that hasn't been determined. We don't have a site plan. It was just a conceptual, but it did take into account that all cars would be accessing Dobson, and then which ones would go north, which ones would go south. So I'm not certain if there will be 1 or 2. That may depend if Durham does get realigned through the site, that may change things. But there will certainly be at least 1, and then an emergency access onto Durham for police and fire.
And Dobson's another narrow road, and I know you talked about, where will they widen it from? I mean, where will the starting point for widening it be? Do you have any idea on that?
So it'll
I
be
know
the
there's all
the entire stretch that the parcels
that the
outlined in red.
Apartment complex would be on, I mean, the housing development, whatever it is.
Yes. So all of the red that you see, where it starts outlined in red to where it ends, would have to be widened. And then if that needs to be widened all the way to the intersection to account for the turn lane or to safely transition, then they would be doing that as well.
Basically stretching clear from Fernwood to Wade Hampton.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, this is, this being, potentially being in District 3, I've followed this pretty close from start to finish. Had a number of conversations with several of you, staff, developers. Will say I hadn't heard any feedback from anyone else in the matter that way, but I appreciate the conversation I've had. Even talking to residents there in that Fernwood neighborhood, I think it's your standard questions, and when, given the information that you've given here tonight and has been given other times, I think, they're as happy as can be with the development happening in their backyard there, for what it's going to be. I think, again, tonight we're discussing the annexation and the initial zoning. I have every confidence in the world that the safety can be and will be addressed, as you guys work through that process. I know that's a high priority for all of us, so share that concern and confident we'll get that done. I'm encouraged also by at least the discussion about the possibility of signalizing at some time, and I think, if anything, that's a potential win from this, to be a catalyst to potentially get that done, whether it's now or in the not so distant future in some form. So I think that's a win for all the residents along Dobson, even that we're having that discussion. Can you tell me, when was the traffic impact study conducted?
Oh, I'd have to look back. Do you happen to know? I might have to pull up our files. They initially submitted for May of 2022, so initially in May, and then it went back and forth throughout October. DOT did ask them, I think during first reading, I mentioned it had been conducted, DOT was reviewing it. DOT had asked them to relook at the intersection of North Dobson with a turn lane to see if it helped. And so since then, it has been updated to reflect that.
Do you know the concern about the timing of the traffic study? Do you know?
I don't. DOT was the third-party reviewer, and they typically will call out any concerns with traffic counts or background traffic. But Wade Hampton, they're very aware of all the development along that stretch, and they do have up-to-date traffic counts, so they did not red flag any concerns.
Yeah. Already it's prompted, at least, at the very minimum, we're going to get a right turn lane on Dobson going on to Wade Hampton, though, correct?
Yes,
Not to
if the project were to be annexed and if it were to move forward.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Can you speak more a little bit on the DOT realignment? That's something new I haven't heard yet, in the intersection of Biblebrook.
Very conceptual, very conversational.
Was that engaged by the developer or?
No, actually, we had a Zoom call to discuss the initial traffic study with DOT because we were concerned about the delay that was at that intersection, and that is what came about from that call was that DOT recommended they go back and look at the intersection. But during that call, we talked about a lot of things and a lot of developments, and we just asked if there was any possibility of signalization, because initially they said, no, I'm sure you know, like spacing of intersections, they have very strict rules of what can and can't be signalized. And they mentioned during the call that if there were any way to realign Dobson to align with Biblebrook, that if that could occur, that met spacing requirements for a potential future signal. So that just spurred some conversations with the developer and to potentially meet with the other property owners, see if they had interest, because we did see it again as a benefit for the residents on the neighborhoods in Dobson, all of the car dealerships that are there, and even the traffic coming from the south from Biblebrook as well. That a signal could potentially really help with all that delay. So again, that did not come about as a requirement of the study, but it was, planners and engineers in a room talking about what we want to see and how can we make it happen, or how could we at least make sure that this development coming in wouldn't preclude that future improvement. And so again, from that conversation, I mentioned it to the developer. He seemed really interested in just exploring that conversation, and so he initiated meetings with other property owners. So that's kind of the background on that. It isn't a typical conversation that happens, but.
So from a safety standpoint, DOT and just from their experience, they felt like that would have been the safest route to go, potentially.
I don't necessarily, we honestly didn't talk a lot about safety in that conversation.
Okay.
It was mostly about function and delay and level of service for the intersections. But since then, we've talked to them about it again, and it certainly would eliminate that kind of strange intersection with the two roads so close together.
So it'd be advantageous.
So I do believe it would help safety, but initially the conversation was more about level of service.
So it'd be advantageous, per se, for the dealerships to be on board if safety was their biggest concern, potentially.
I mean, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I don't want to speak to that, but
Okay.
it did seem like a potential improvement that could be good if we could make it happen.
Okay.
Council, I think it's fair to say that we are not oblivious to the fact that this intersection is not a highly functional intersection, and to the credit of the developer and the city as well too. Excuse me. There have been a number of conversations at different levels about what could or could not be done there, but tonight we are focused on an annexation, and there is nobody that has wanted to spend a lot of time or money at this point to start identifying alternative routes and other ways of making these roads match up to create a better intersection at this point in time. And so all of our conversations that I have been engaged in, that the administrator's been engaged in, that our staff has been engaged in, and there have been a lot of those conversations relative to the concerns of the car dealerships, both to the east and to the west, about addressing this intersection and possibly doing something that would improve the quality of traffic flow and ingress and egress to those dealerships, and possibly have some signalization at Biblebrook. And so as this project continues to unfold, I would expect that we will engage more in in-depth conversations and at some point in time begin to look at what the actual cost of doing this is, and that will give us a basis to talk to the principals that have a stake in this about whether or not they want to participate in something that might create a much better alignment there. So it's not that we've not tried to do something. We've been very active in that regard. It's just hard to monetize or to finalize that, given the fact that this is just a second reading on an annexation at this point.
I just need to confirm two more things. Durham Road is a dead end, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's only, what did we say, 5 houses there?
I believe there's 5 houses and 1 business and 1 vacant parcel.
Okay, so traffic count on Durham is nothing, pretty much, is that?
It is low, yes. I've met with several of those property owners and the business at the top as well.
But the issue is that we heard tonight from the petitioner seemed to be, and you said that the businesses were using Durham Road to bring their tractor trailers in on.
Yes.
Why are they doing that instead of coming in off Wade Hampton, which makes a lot more sense? But that's okay.
All right, other questions?
Well, one other thing, you know, when you notice and you look at the property lines, it does show it crossing over Durham with the property line. So when the annexation is approved, if it is, then that puts that property there as the responsibility of the city. Is that not correct?
Yes, Durham Road for that stretch, the little spur at the beginning, that is part of the city. That little triangle of Durham Road is city, and then we would be annexing until the edge of that property, 61, and then the remainder of it would remain county responsibility.
And on Dobson, was there any point that it crossed over? I can't remember whether it did or not.
It's fronting on Dobson, so we are annexing in that as well.
Over, you know.
No, it does not go overlap the road to the other side.
But we're annexing.
We are taking that road.
So we're annexing, so it would partly become, just like some of the other streets have become, shared responsibility between Greenville County and the city, is
Well,
that right?
in this case, yeah, and in this case, it was Spartanburg County, but
Or
what
Spartanburg, yeah.
makes Durham odd, and without getting into any crazy details about this, but we've run into some of these roads, especially on the Spartanburg County side, where they have these prescriptive right-of-way as opposed to a traditional right-of-way. Whereas you've got Dobson Road in this particular case is a road. It is a traditional road. It has a right-of-way, it's dedicated. Well, Durham is one of those goofy situations where it's just a right-of-way from an access standpoint. It is not a right-of-way in a legal standpoint. So that's why Durham is a little bit different when you're comparing it to Dobson. And I believe, as we've discussed, there's no designs whatsoever on dumping any of the Streams Development property onto Durham. It'll continue to function as that thoroughfare for those 4 or 5 businesses or homes and residences back there. But yes, they will become a part of the city proper.
I will say, just looking at the intersection, I do understand the concern of the business, and, you know, using their truck traffic coming off Durham where it meets in that strange way in that triangle, and I do hope that they will be required to make some type of improvement to that intersection, or there, something needs to change there. It's just, it's not an ideal situation.
Well, let's be clear that unless there is concerted effort by other parties, that intersection will not change.
I agree with that, I understand. And I understand it's just specific to the annexation, but it's still not ideal the way it's, I know, and again, I understand, Mr. Mayor, what you're saying, that it's a prescriptive right of way, and it's just something that people have been using over time and want to continue to use that, but, you know, to Jay's point too, it may be a good idea to start to consider to shift that truck traffic in a different direction and maybe consider using the other entrance and exit. And I understand they probably want, you know, to dedicate that to the public, but, you know, as traffic increases on North Dobson, that's going to continue to be an issue.
The thing I keep thinking about, this proposed project's not gonna put any cars down Durham though.
No, I know.
The residents that are using it.
I'm talking more about the intersection where the roads come together,
Sure.
not necessarily the amount of volume. I'm just thinking about the amount of volume that's gonna be increasing in North Dobson coming out to Wade Hampton. I just think there's gonna be, you know, a conflict right there at that intersection.
It was funky before this, and if nothing's done, it'll stay funky.
I just have one other question. On that traffic study, was Dobson Meadows, was it completed and built out when that traffic study?
Believe so, but I'd have to go back and confirm that.
Yeah.
I
'Cause I'm
believe
just
based
wondering
on
if it
when they
wasn't
came in
completed,
and
then
pulled
that has already
permits.
put a lot more traffic on that particular road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't required to do a traffic study because it's only 41 lots. So I'd have to go back and confirm. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Council, second and final reading of ordinance number 60-2022. Questions? Comments? Discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Schenkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council will move to the second item of old business, second and final reading of ordinance number 61-2022. This is an ordinance to provide for the annexation of a certain property owned by Joseph M. Davis and Diane S. Davis Miners Trust with the primary beneficiary Desiree L. Davis located on North Dobson Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of RM2 for said property. Ms. Gotti, any new or additional information in regards to the second and final reading of ordinance number 61-2022?
I don't have any new information other than what we already discussed for 60. This is parcel 2 of 3 that's part of the same kind of project consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Comes with a recommendation from staff. I'll entertain a motion to receive
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
Yeah, let me ask another question. I'm just wanted to clarify. I believe when this first came to us, it was back some time ago.
I
It
believe
was to be an apartment
October.
complex.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
is that still the plans?
That is.
It's an apartment complex, not homes, not townhomes?
Correct.
Et cetera? Okay. And how many, 264?
I believe
maybe I read that?
264.
Yeah, okay.
Others? Discussion. Mr. Schenkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Third item, second and final reading of ordinance number 62-2022, an ordinance to provide for the annexation of certain property owned by Lakeland LLC located on North Dobson Road by 100% petition and to establish a zoning classification of RM2 for said property. Any new or additional information beyond what's been brought tonight, Ms. Cotty, that in regards to ordinance number 62-2020?
No, sir.
Comes to us as second and final reading. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis, Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Item number 4, second and final reading of ordinance number 64-2022. This is an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a development agreement by and between the City of Greer, South Carolina, and Century Development Partners, LLC, or its assigns, with respect to capital improvements inside the City of Greer and other matters related thereto. Ms. Cotty, this is the execution and development of a development agreement. Any new or additional information in that regard?
Yes, the agreement has been updated and was included in your packet. There was only one change, and it was to further clarify what the improvements, the fee that's collected would be used for. And again, that would be for intersection improvements that we discussed earlier. And then if this is not pursued within 5 years, then would revert to general capital improvements like other annexation agreements. And that is the only change.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive second and final reading of ordinance number 64-2022.
So moved.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion.
I didn't do the math in my head very well. What's the total amount that we're
I was
talking about?
just gonna say, I'm not sure, let me see. So it is 16, I know it's close to 400,000, but let me, 442,000.
Well, just after talking to staff and several of you guys, the developer, several residents, I really appreciate the fact that we are setting aside these funds, at least for a 5-year period, to try to have a good faith effort to, do something with the realignment. I think that shows a lot of effort on our part, and goes a long way. I think it will please our residents as well. I'm happy to see that. So I appreciate those efforts.
Yeah, I hope that it will be spent on the improvement and before the 5 years. As its problems occur. But let's not wait on somebody to get killed before we take a step. I know it's real hard when it comes to trying to get traffic lights and safety precautions put in. It takes so many accidents before anything will ever be done. And then it takes a while after that before it's ever done. I'm dealing with one of those, so, yeah.
Others? Comments? Questions? Discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. As we continue with second and final readings, we approach ordinance number 77-2022. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of a portion of certain property owned by Greg Shirk, located at 319 Morrow Street, from RM12 to C3. Ms. Cotty?
I do not have any updates.
No new or additional information from staff in regards to ordinance number 77-2022. I'll entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Motion is second. Floor is open for discussion.
Are they turning that house into a business there? Is that what it is?
No, it's just a small triangle piece
Yeah.
of the corner that they will be combining with the adjacent commercial piece. I guess
Is the
due,
commercial piece where the house is sitting?
no, that
That's
is
the
our
one that's flat
12.
And nothing on it?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
So it's just a very small piece
Yeah,
of that
okay. I just
property.
couldn't, from the map and all, I just wasn't sure, is this going with the house, or is this going with that flat vacant spot out there?
So this will be they recorded the combination. We require them to record that prior to second reading to avoid split zoning. So they did record that combination. So that little triangle will go with the commercial piece and be zone C3. And that house will remain R12 and residential. It just has a little sliver taken out, and they still met their minimum lot size with that taken out.
Others? Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mrs. Albert? Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, our last item of old business, second and final reading of ordinance number 1-2023. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of a certain property owned by Jonga Sin located at 445 Mayfield Road from RM12 to S1. I'll entertain a motion to receive for the purpose of discussion.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, the floor is open for discussion. Excuse me, any new or additional information, Ms. Gotti, in regard to?
I do not have any
ordinance
updates.
1-2023. Thank you, ma'am. Questions? Comments? Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mrs. Albert? Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, let's move to items of new business, one of which is before the council this evening. It is, involves the fire department. It is a request to purchase turnout gear. Deputy Chief Holtzheimer joins us this evening for that discussion. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Yes, as you know, we had increased staffing this year, and the fire department is in need of additional sets of turnout gear. And we are asking for approval from the bid summaries to award that to AEST Fire and Safety in the amount of $53,509.12. We did work through purchasing through the consortium of HGAC, and that price, we did our homework after Spartanburg County purchased a large amount of turnout gear, and we were able to find that it was cheaper through AEST instead of HGAC. I'm open, I'd be glad to answer any further questions.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive
So moved.
and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
Are these the only two vendors for the Morning Pride gear?
No, sir. Morning Pride has several different vendors. However, when you have your spec sent to them, that vendor that does that has then the rights to that. We have MES out of Charlotte is another vendor for them. And AEST, as I said, they were working with Spartanburg County, and we were able to use that, I guess, larger purchase power to get the price cheaper.
So there's other vendors, but are they restricted from bidding?
They are restricted from bidding on it.
So all we were able to do was to provide two bids, correct?
Correct, sir.
And I realize that buying turnout gear is, it's kind of like buying a car. You just add features. Since we only have two bids, did we not think about using a different manufacturer?
We, as you know, 4 years ago, we purchased new turnout gear, and that was the same spec that we tried to stay with the same gear to make sure that it has the bailout kits that we use, it has the ladder belt that we use to make sure that everybody uses the same thing to keep uniformity.
Oh, so does Morning Pride, are they the only ones that offer those specifics?
No, sir, they're not.
Okay.
Others? Questions? Comments? Discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mrs. Albert? Mayor Danner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council, in executive session, we have one matter this evening. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pertaining to administration as allowed by state statute, section 30-470A1.
Mr. Schinkel? Oh, excuse me.
Second.
I need a second. Have a second. Any discussion in that regard? Hearing none. Mr. Schinkel?
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mrs. Albert? Mayor Danner?
Yes. As a matter of explanation, we will stay in chambers for our executive session. Please take your time exiting the hall, but we will stay stay here for the rest of the meeting. Council, in executive session, we've considered one matter. It's a personnel matter. We went into executive session to discuss a personnel matter based on state statute. I'll entertain a motion that we come out of executive session.
So moved.
And a second. Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yeah.
Mrs. Albert.
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, before we adjourn this evening, is there any additional new information, business that we need to attend to?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to allow our mayor to negotiate a new contract with our city administrator.
Comes as a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion in that regard? Mr. Schinkel.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mrs. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Having no further stated business, we stand adjourned.